it happened when there was, we kind of dabbled in, as I mentioned, my family was dabbling in Apple products, and Steve Jobs came back and I think caught some people's attention. I remember that day he'd sold his company, I think called Next, back to Apple. Didn't take a salary, $1 a year or something like that. But whenever that was, 2003, something like that, for the holidays, I got an iPod. Pretty generous family. And I just remember trying a lot of MP3 players out before, because we were a tech team. We always played around with tech, digital cameras and MP3 players and hard disks and just different things. And so anyway, the iPod shows up, Santa brings the iPod. And I remember opening it up and just thinking this is a gift that I'm really going to remember. And the problem was, of course, actually at that time, we did not have a Mac. I did not own a Mac. And so what we had to do is I struck a deal with our graphics department at Piper where I could come in at night and burn the DVDs, because you had to have a Mac to use an iPod at the time. And we'd go in at night. Then I'd set a timer on my watch for it'd take 20 minutes to burn a disc, and I'd sleep, and then kind of back and forth. And then you realize after a couple nights of that, this is just silly. I got to buy a Mac. So I went and bought a Mac, and I was just kind of talking about that whole experience with Mike Olson, who was an analyst that worked with me. And he said it's like a halo between the two. And to this day, I will stand by the term, the halo effect. I think it was coined by Mike Olson. If it wasn't coined, he's the one who really took it to the next level. But that was kind of the spirit. And we were covering software at the time, and I credit Mike Ott, who was the director of research, when we came to him and said, this isn't just going to be a computer company in the future. They're going to go in a whole different direction with a music player. We didn't see the iPhone at the time. And he saw it. And I remember him looking at the other analysts. They were all computer analysts that were covering it. And I remember saying to him, this is our opportunity to change the narrative on it. And he's like, I get it. And you're going to be a fish out of water here, but let's go for it. So that was kind of the reason how Apple came about, the inspiration behind it. And then it just kind of, we always wanted to get it right. That was the other thing. We've been positive on Apple for a long time, but every time it would go up, we just want to get it right. And there's no pride and ownership for us. And I just think the company has since then just continued to surprise me about ways that they're going to be becoming more important to our lives.
I mean, you didn't just get it right, though. I mean, you were beyond right. You were on everything. And I just remember you getting ridiculed sometimes. He's in La La Land. He just says Apple's going to be this, and it all eventually followed. So
nice to remember that. We can talk about the stuff I missed too, but nice to remember that. And it's been a great run. I still think its best days are ahead.
Yeah, and I remember it. I mean, it's crazy. And so you got into it when it was the iPod stuff, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the iPod. And then I think we, not just getting into it and seeing it too, but being committed to it. I think that was a big part of it. And we still refer to this at Loup, because we still publish content, as you mentioned, as the drip. But that idea of just continually being out there has just, I think, been an important part. Just continuing to make sure people know where you stand. Some may refer to it as sticking your neck out, but making sure you're doing that and owning the mistakes. And just so from a business model perspective, our view is always just keep the drip going, and probably just like any, your world too. And we published a crazy amount of research. We still do today at Loup. We publish 4 things per week, which for people who are doing analysis on companies, public and private, it's a lot of, we're putting out a lot of research.
And are you doing 4 things per week just because that's what you do every week, or is it you do 2 things if there aren't more ideas? What will you do?
It averages out to 4. So that's we have a goal of publishing 4 things per week. 2 of them are video related. We have a TV channel called Loup TV, and 2 of them are print related. Over time we may kind of work around the margins on those, but that's the idea, is just, we want to get it right. We want to figure out where massive transformation happens. And I think part of getting it right, just part of our DNA is to do that. Putting it out there and making sure the world knows where you stand, I think, is an important part of it.
Yeah, totally. And so I want to move on to the Apple. Did you camp out at Apple back in the day when they would release a new iPod or something, that kind of thing?
Feet on the street. We were all over the place. I think that was another piece that made us a distinction. I remember when I had my iPod and I went and worked out at a gym, and I was looking at other people kind of fumbling around with their Sony Walkmans. There's a blast from the past. And I wanted to give a call to investor relations just to check in and see if there was anything I was missing. And And I remember talking to them and just saying, like, your device is going to make people more healthy. And it just came out of my mouth. I was in the lower level of Lifetime, or at the time it was called like Northwest Fitness or something like that. And so then I got on this thing like, let's start talking to people, like, will it really change our life? And so then we had spread out. We had a team of 3. We'd spread out and just talk to people. We'd walk around the streets and we'd say, we'd have the device. That was a big thing, like show people an iPod and what do you think of it? And then that kind of just kept finding new ways. The lines, surveying people in the lines is something we've done for a long time when Apple product releases. And over the last 5 years, we do more of those. That survey work is done through things like SurveyMonkey. But for 15 years, we just pound the street.
Got it. And so, and you just pound the street. And then how did you have enough analysts to go cover all the openings? Or you had like 15, or like you spread
self, Mike Olson, and Andrew Murphy, the 3 of us, we've somehow found a way to get it done. But, it was a big part of, our coverage. I bet probably a third of our time, we probably covered 20 companies, and I bet a third of the time was on Apple.